He stood in a dusty crowd, heart shattered, soul numb, just looking for a horse to survive another season alone. But what he saw next stopped time itself. A trembling 19-year-old girl being sold by her own parents, like cattle in an open market. No one stopped it. No one even blinked. And before he knew it, he raised his hand and bought her. He thought he was saving her from cruelty. But what she whispered days later tore his entire world apart. This wasn't just a broken girl. This was the key to a dark secret buried deep beneath his town. And once the truth came out, it would set fire to everything he thought he knew. In the quiet corner of a forgotten town, under the dry breath of a dying sunset, a broken man stood at the edge of desperation. Nathan Hale, once a proud rancher with calloused hands and a heart full of love, had lost everything that gave him purpose. His wife, Claire, the only woman who ever understood the silence behind his strength, had been taken by illness a year ago. Since then, the ranch felt colder, the nights longer, and the world utterly meaningless. He wasn't just grieving, he was drifting, clinging to routines not out of hope, but because without them, he'd collapse. But fate doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes, it comes wearing the face of something unbearable. Nathan hadn't planned to go to the town square that day. He hated the noise, the forced smiles of people who pitied him, the gossip that trailed behind him like dust on a forgotten trail. But a horse auction was taking place, and he needed a strong mare to help manage the overgrown fields. What he didn't expect was to find people huddled around something far more unsettling than livestock. A teenage girl, no older than 19, stood trembling on a wooden platform. Her clothes were worn thin, her eyes red from crying, and a crude sign dangled from her neck: hard worker. No demands. Sold as is. The crowd murmured with unease. Some laughed. Some turned away. And standing beside the girl were her parents, her own father shouting prices, her mother avoiding eye contact like guilt itself was weighing down her soul. Nathan froze. At first, he thought it was some sick joke, a street performance gone too far. But then he saw the father's eyes, cold, calculating, dead. This wasn't a joke. This was real. This girl was being auctioned off like cattle, and no one was stopping it. He could have walked away, told himself it wasn't his fight, but something in the girl's eyes reminded him of Claire. Not her beauty, not her youth, but the quiet way she endured her humiliation, the way she refused to cry anymore, because tears had dried up long ago. His hand rose before his mind could catch up. $200, he said firmly. Silence fell. The father grinned like a man who'd just made a deal with the devil. Sold. The girl didn't flinch. She simply stepped off the platform and walked toward Nathan without hesitation. No goodbye to her parents. No glance back. Just obedience. Hollow and mechanical. Nathan led her to his wagon and drove in silence. She didn't ask where they were going. She didn't even ask his name. Back at the ranch, he offered her food. She ate quietly, barely tasting it. He asked her name. Eliza, she said. Just that. No surname. No emotion. Over the next few days, Nathan tried to keep things simple. He told her she could sleep in the spare room, that she didn't owe him anything, and that he'd help her find work if she wanted to leave. But she never spoke of leaving. She woke before dawn, fed the animals, swept the barn, mended fences. All without instruction, without complaint. Almost as if she'd been trained to serve, not live. He couldn't ignore the unease growing in his chest. This wasn't just a poor girl sold out of desperation. There was something darker, something that didn't sit right in the way she avoided eye contact, the way she flinched at sudden sounds, or how she froze whenever he spoke too loudly. One evening, as rain hammered the roof and wind howled like ghosts outside, Nathan asked gently, "Why did your parents sell you, Eliza?" She hesitated, her hands tightening around the cup of tea he'd made. Her lips trembled, but she didn't cry. "They said I was a burden, that feeding me was wasteful, that I was born wrong." Nathan's fists clenched under the table. He didn't press further that night, but the ache in his chest deepened. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, Eliza began to soften. She smiled once, just once, while watching a baby foal stumble through its first steps. She began humming while sweeping the porch. Nathan noticed. It wasn't joy. Not yet, but it was something. Then came the letter, hand-delivered by a traveler from a nearby town. No name on the envelope, just 2 words, for Eliza. Nathan gave it to her cautiously. She turned pale the moment she saw the handwriting. She read it silently, and when she finished, her hand shook so violently the paper fell to the ground. Nathan picked it up. Her voice cracked for the first time in weeks. "They're coming." "Who's coming?" he asked. She looked up, her eyes filled with something he hadn't seen before: terror. "My parents. I wasn't the only one they sold. I was just the first." What came next shattered everything he thought he knew. Eliza told him about the others. Girls younger than her. Taken, beaten, and sold to traveling strangers. Her parents were part of something sick. A network disguised under poverty, but built on greed and abuse. Eliza had tried to run once, and for that, they locked her in a cellar for weeks. When they sold her publicly, it wasn't desperation. It was a message to the others. Nathan stared at her, the weight of her words sinking in like cold lead. He felt like the ground beneath him had opened up. This wasn't a rescue. This was a storm he had unknowingly stepped into. And now the wind was turning. He stood slowly, his heart pounding. "You're safe here. I won't let them near you." But Eliza didn't look relieved. Her voice was barely a whisper. "You don't understand. If they find me here, they'll burn this place to the ground." Nathan looked out the window into the night, where shadows moved with the wind. Something deep inside him stirred, not fear, but something older. The same fire he'd felt when Claire was dying, and he swore he'd stay strong until the end. Only now, it wasn't just about surviving. It was about protecting what little good was left in this broken world. And in that moment, he realized he hadn't saved Eliza. Not yet. The real fight had just begun. Nathan didn't sleep that night. His shotgun lay loaded beside the door, and his eyes remained fixed on the dirt road beyond the porch, watching for movement. Eliza stayed silent, curled in a corner of the living room as if hiding made her invisible. The storm had passed, but the tension in the air was heavier than ever. Every creak in the wood felt like a warning. Every gust of wind outside sounded like footsteps. Nathan wasn't just preparing for danger. He was preparing to protect, not just his land, but the wounded soul who now depended on him. By dawn, the letter was still lying on the floor, rain-streaked and heavy with fear. Eliza hadn't said another word since her warning. Her silence wasn't avoidance, it was terror. Nathan knelt beside her and gently spoke. "Tell me everything. Now." Eliza hesitated, but something in his voice gave her the courage to speak. Her words came slow at first, then faster, like floodgates bursting. "My parents, they weren't always like that. Or maybe they were, and I just didn't see it. My father used to gamble. He lost our home once, and then he started selling things to pay debts. Then people, girls from neighboring towns, strays, orphans, and when I turned 16, he started saying I owed them. For food, for clothes, for surviving." Nathan's stomach turned. Eliza looked away, blinking back tears. "At first, they tried to marry me off to some drunk twice my age. I refused. He beat me. Then they locked me in the cellar, no light, no food except scraps. After a while, I stopped screaming. That's when they decided to sell me publicly, to prove they were in control. I wasn't their daughter anymore. I was property." Nathan's jaw tightened. Every word she spoke carved deeper into his heart. He had dealt with loss before, but this was evil in its purest form. Eliza stood and walked slowly to the window, her eyes scanning the road. "They said if I ever talked, they'd kill anyone who helped me. They've done it before. That's how the others disappeared. Anyone who got too close, who tried to take a girl away, burned barns, shot wagons, buried secrets." Nathan's pulse quickened. He thought of the other ranchers in town, the rumors of missing girls, the fires blamed on weather or accidents. All the pieces began to fall into place. This wasn't just a family's cruelty. This was a rot that had been spreading quietly while everyone turned away. And now it was on his doorstep. Later that afternoon, Nathan hitched the wagon. "We're going into town," he said. Eliza froze. "No, if they see me." "They won't," he interrupted. And if they do, they'll answer to me." She hesitated, then climbed aboard. They rode in silence, dust rising behind them like smoke. As they entered town, eyes followed them. Nathan went straight to the sheriff's office. He didn't ask for permission. He kicked the door open. Sheriff Granger looked up from his desk, annoyed. "Something wrong, Nathan?" Nathan didn't blink. "I bought a girl last month. A 19-year-old named Eliza. I thought I was rescuing her. Turns out, I bought her from human traffickers, her parents. I want them arrested." The sheriff stared at him, then slowly leaned back. "Now hold on, that's a serious accusation. You sure you want to?" Nathan slammed the letter on the desk. "They're threatening her. They've hurt others. I don't care how serious it is. You do your damn job." Granger read the letter, his face paling as he scanned the trembling handwriting. Then his eyes flicked to Eliza, standing quietly by the door. Recognition flashed in his face, but not surprise. Guilt. Nathan caught it. "You knew," he said coldly. The sheriff said nothing. "You knew," Nathan repeated, stepping forward, fury rising. "You knew what they were doing." Granger lowered his head. "It wasn't that simple. Her father has friends. Judges. Men with power. I've tried before. Girls go missing. Witnesses disappear. I can't win this alone." Nathan leaned in. "Then don't fight alone. But if you turn away again, I swear to God, I'll burn this whole damn county down." The sheriff nodded slowly. "All right, but we do it right. Quiet. Smart." They returned to the ranch by sundown. That night, Eliza asked, "Why are you doing this for me?" Nathan didn't answer right away. He looked at her, really looked. Not at the girl who'd been sold like livestock, not at the orphan of monsters, but at the survivor, the soul who'd endured more than most ever could. "My wife," he said quietly. "Claire. She always said the world was cruel enough already. If you have the strength to protect someone, you don't think twice. You just do it." Eliza nodded, tears in her eyes for the first time, not from pain, but from something close to hope. But hope is fragile. 3 nights later, Nathan woke to the smell of smoke. He ran to the window. Flames danced in the distance. His barn was burning. Horses screamed in panic. He grabbed his rifle and ran. But by the time he reached the barn, it was too late. The fire had already consumed the roof. He found one of the horses collapsed, burnt and shaking, and near the fence post, in the dirt, a message carved crudely with a knife. "Give her back, or next time it's the house." Nathan stood in the ash, his heart pounding like war drums. This wasn't a threat. This was a declaration. Her parents knew where she was, and they were coming. Back at the house, Eliza was already awake, standing in the hallway with a blanket clutched to her chest. She didn't speak. She didn't have to. Nathan walked past her, straight to the cellar door. He opened it. "Go down. Lock the hatch. Don't come out until I say." She nodded and obeyed. He loaded his rifle, his revolver, and set a lantern by each window. Then he waited. The night passed slowly. But just before dawn, he saw the shadows. 4 riders on horseback. No torches. No words. Just slow movement through the mist. Nathan stepped onto the porch, rifle raised. He didn't call out. He didn't ask questions. He aimed and fired. The first shot missed. The second hit a horse, sending one rider crashing. The others scattered, guns drawn, bullets tearing into the wood beside him. Nathan dove behind the porch, firing again, one shot after another, until the shadows disappeared into the trees. Then silence. Blood on the dirt. Hoofprints. But they were gone. When the sheriff arrived hours later with deputies, Nathan didn't speak much. Just pointed to the bullet holes, the footprints, and the charred barn. Granger looked at him, eyes heavy. "This isn't over." Nathan nodded. "No, but next time, I'll be ready." Inside, Eliza emerged from the cellar, her face pale but determined. She walked to Nathan and placed something in his hand. A small photograph, torn, faded. It was her, as a child, sitting beside another girl. "That's my sister," she whispered. "They sold her 2 years ago. I never saw her again." Nathan looked at the photo. His voice was low but steady. Then we find her. Because the truth wasn't just about what Eliza had escaped. It was about what still needed to be faced. And the man who had once lost everything had just found a reason to fight again. The next morning, the sun rose over scorched earth and broken fences. Nathan stood near the ruins of his barn, boots in ash, heart heavy. The night's violence hadn't just shaken the ranch, it had drawn a line. This was no longer about sheltering Eliza. This was war. He knew they'd come back, and next time, they wouldn't miss. Eliza joined him silently. Her face was calm, but her eyes were distant. "They won't stop," she said softly. "They've done this for years." People knew. No one spoke. No one stopped them. Nathan looked at her. "But you did." She shook her head. "I was too scared. I let them sell me. I didn't scream. I didn't run." "You survived," Nathan said, "and that's braver than most." That afternoon, he hitched the wagon again, but this time, he wasn't going to town. He rode to every nearby farm, every ranch, every home with a woman who had whispered stories of missing girls or strange fires. He spoke the truth, told them what Eliza told him. Some slammed their doors, but others listened. Men who'd lost daughters, women who carried old scars, people tired of silence. By nightfall, Nathan returned with 10 men, 3 women, and a plan. They would stand together. They would testify. They would expose the rot, even if it meant burning through it. Days later, the sheriff delivered arrest warrants. Eliza's parents were caught trying to flee the county with 2 other girls hidden beneath wagon tarps. When questioned, they laughed. She was never a daughter, just a debt. Those were the words her father spoke. Cold, proud. At the trial, Eliza sat silently, facing them. The courtroom was packed. Ranchers, townspeople, even drifters who'd heard whispers of what this town had buried. When asked to testify, Eliza stood, hands shaking. She looked her parents in the eyes, and with a voice firm but trembling, said, "You tried to break me. You tried to sell my soul. But I belong to no one now. Not even your shame." Gasps filled the room. Her words struck like thunder. The verdict came swift. Guilty. Sentences without mercy. As they were dragged away, her mother wept. Her father snarled. But Eliza didn't flinch. Outside the courthouse, Nathan waited. She walked to him slowly, then looked up, her face washed in light. "It's over." Nathan shook his head gently. "No, it's just beginning." He handed her the photograph again. Her and her sister. "We'll find her." Tears welled in her eyes, not from pain, but from a flicker of something she thought she'd never feel again, hope. And as they walked away together, 2 broken souls no longer lost. The wind carried something different across the fields. Not sorrow, not silence, but healing.